7 signs you're disconnected from yourself. I think a lot of women assume that if they're disconnected from themselves, that they would know it. That there would have been a big dramatic event that they suddenly realized, I don't know who I am. Honestly, that's not usually how it happens. Disconnection happens slowly, a little at a time. And because it happens gradually, we often don't even realize it's happening until we feel exhausted, overwhelmed, or like we've even somehow lost ourselves. Here are some of the quiet signs. Sign 1, you ask everyone else what they think first. Sometimes we don't even realize that that's what we're doing. You might text your friends and ask what they think. You might look for answers and reassurance before you make a decision. I remember someone asking me a simple question. Do you want to go? Without even thinking, I answered, I have to see what my husband's doing first. Immediately, my mind went to, what? Nobody asked him. They asked me. That moment, that made me realize I wasn't even checking in with myself. Sometimes disconnecting looks like forgetting to ask yourself first. Sign 2, you don't know what you want. Someone asks, where do you want to eat? And you say, I don't care, you decide. Someone asks, what do you enjoy? And your answer is immediately something you know they like. Someone asks, what do you need? And your answer is, I don't know. The truth is, you may have spent years adapting to everyone else, making sure everyone else was comfortable and happy, paying attention to what they needed as opposed to what you needed. After a while, you lose practice listening to yourself. It's hard to know what you want when you spent years making sure everyone else's needs were met. Sign 3, you change your answer when somebody disagrees with you. Picture this. Someone asks you a question. You answer immediately because you know the answer. But then someone disagrees. Suddenly, you're rethinking everything you thought. You start explaining what you meant, second-guessing yourselves, sometimes even changing your answer. But here's the thing. You knew the answer 30 seconds ago. Nothing's changed, except someone else's discomfort simply became louder than what you knew. That happens more than we realize. Sign 4, you're always trying to keep the peace. Growing up, many of us were taught to make sure everyone else was happy, comfortable. Keep the peace. Don't upset anyone. Be agreeable. Be nice. So we learn to smooth things over, to make ourselves smaller, to say yes when we really meant no, to swallow our feelings because someone else might get upset. Eventually, we become responsible for everyone else's emotions. Everyone in the room except ours. That's exhausting. And it's impossible to stay connected to yourself if you're constantly monitoring everyone else's emotional weather. Side 5, your body is speaking louder than your voice. Our bodies often know long before our minds are willing to admit it. When I was married to my first husband, I would get an upset stomach if I disagreed with something he said. I would get headaches for days. I was exhausted all the time. At the time, I didn't fully understand, but looking back, I realized my body knew I was going against myself. I was saying one thing on the outside while feeling something entirely different on the inside. Our bodies have a way of getting our attention when we've stopped listening to ourselves. Sign 6, you're frustrated with yourself. You might think you're upset with your spouse, or your boss, or your family. And oftentimes you might be. But a lot of the time, we're frustrated with ourselves because something didn't feel right. We knew it. We saw the red flags. We had that feeling in our stomach. We knew what we wanted. And yet, we did what they wanted anyway. There's a particular kind of sadness that comes from that, from repeatedly abandoning yourself. Over time, that sadness often turns to frustration. Sign 7. You feel like you've lost yourself. I really don't think women lose themselves. I think they slowly quit listening to themselves, which is entirely different. One opinion they don't voice. One feeling they dismiss. One boundary they don't hold. One choice they make for someone else's benefit instead of their own. It happens slowly, which means the good news is that it can come back slowly too. You don't have to fix everything. You could start right here. Ask yourself, what do I think? What do I want? What do I need? What feels true to me? And then actually give yourself time to think about it. You don't need all the answers. You simply need to start asking the questions. Because you're not trying to build a better you. You're not trying to become someone new. There's absolutely nothing wrong with who you are. You may simply need to remember to listen to her again. Thanks for listening.